Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to speak to you about a subject that most people struggle with more than anything else: relationships. Not just the kind you see, but the ones that live in your imagination, the ones that shape your life quietly from within. There's a law in the universe, a law so simple yet so profound, that if you understood it and lived by it, it would change your relationships, your peace of mind, and your very sense of being. It is this: people come into your life for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. But only you can determine the meaning they hold in your experience. And when someone wishes to leave, when they feel the pull to move on, the first step toward freedom is not to hold them, but to let them go. Tonight I will take you through 10 insights, 10 realizations, 10 shifts in consciousness that will allow you to truly live this principle. By the time you leave, you will understand why letting go is not loss but liberation, and how it allows you to align with the reality you desire. Understand the nature of relationships. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to listen carefully, because this is the foundation of all understanding, not only in relationships but in life itself. Many of you walk through life believing that the people who come and go are the source of your happiness, the source of your pain, or the measure of your worth. And yet nothing could be further from the truth. The moment you understand the true nature of relationships, everything changes. Relationships are never about the other person. They are always about you, your state of consciousness, your inner beliefs, and the reality you choose to dwell in. You see, every encounter in your life, every bond that forms, is a reflection of your imagination. You did not meet these people by accident. The mind is the great creator, and your external world is merely a mirror of your internal world. If someone enters your life, it is because at that moment, in some mysterious and perfect alignment, your consciousness resonated with theirs. And when someone leaves, it is no different. It is simply a reflection that your consciousness has shifted, that your inner world has moved in a new direction. Most people do not see this. They attach themselves to others, as though the happiness, love, or validation they crave is found outside of themselves. And so when the person leaves, when the connection dissolves, they suffer, they mourn, they feel abandoned. But understand this deeply. The moment you grasp this law, the moment you see that your outer world is a reflection of your inner state, letting go becomes not only natural, but effortless. There is no need for struggle, no need for clinging, no need for fear. Let me give you a simple truth. Suppose a person has come into your life and played a role, perhaps a lover, a friend, a partner, a colleague. Every interaction, every word spoken, every shared moment is a reflection of your inner imagination. Perhaps at one time, you imagined a life filled with love, security, companionship, or understanding. And in response to that imagination, this person appeared. They are not your creation in the sense that you made them, but they are a manifestation of the inner state you held. They are the mirror of your desire, the echo of your consciousness. Now, when that person decides to leave, what does it mean? Many will ask, why did they go? What did I do wrong? How can I make them stay? And these questions arise from a lack of understanding of the true nature of reality. The person is leaving not because of something external. They are leaving because their path, their state of being no longer resonates with the state you are holding. Perhaps your imagination has moved forward. Perhaps it has shifted. Perhaps your inner world has expanded in a way that no longer calls them to your reality. That is all. There is no judgment here. There is no failure. There is only the law of consciousness in action. When you grasp this, you will see that holding on is futile. When you attempt to keep someone who no longer wishes to remain, you are resisting the very flow of life, the very law that governs reality. You are attempting to force an external condition to conform to your desire, and yet the universe always responds to the inner state first. Your imagination is the only power that truly governs, and therefore to allow someone to go is not to surrender. It is to act in accordance with the truth. It is to recognize that the outer world, the people, the circumstances, are not the source of life. They are merely the reflection of what you are feeling and believing inside. Think carefully for a moment. What does it feel like to release someone? The mind initially rebels. It whispers, if I let them go, I will be lonely. I will lose love. I will miss something essential. And yet the imagination has already provided something far greater. The realization that your completeness does not reside in another. You are already whole. The person who leaves is merely making visible what you have already known in your imagination. You are the source of your own fulfillment. Let us go deeper. Imagine for a moment that every person who enters your life is a teacher. Some teach you love, some teach you joy, some teach you patience, and some teach you the hard lessons of letting go. When a person chooses to leave, they are offering you a lesson, a chance to step into a higher state of being, to release dependency, and to awaken to your own infinite power. To resist this natural law is to deny your own growth. To embrace it is to step into freedom, peace, and understanding. And so the first principle is simple, but profound. Relationships are mirrors of your inner state. They appear according to your imagination. They stay according to your alignment. And they depart according to the truth of your consciousness. Nothing in the external world has power over you unless you give it power. And nothing has the power to leave your experience without the universe reflecting back the inner change that has occurred. I want you to take this thought deeply into your being. When someone leaves, it is not the end. It is a reflection, a symbol, a necessary movement in the dance of life. It is an invitation to look within, to examine the state that attracted them, and to step into a new awareness. They do not leave you to punish you. They leave you to awaken you, to remind you that the source of love, the source of joy, and the source of life is within, not without. Tonight, if you will take only one thing away from this first section, let it be this. Do not measure your life, your worth, or your happiness by the presence or absence of others. Your relationships are a reflection of your imagination. And the moment you understand this, the moment you truly see it, you will no longer fear departure. You will no longer cling. You will no longer suffer. And in that understanding, you will find a peace and freedom that surpasses all comprehension. So I ask you now, look at the people in your life. Look at those who have come and gone, and see them as they truly are. Not as a loss, not as a gain, but as mirrors of your consciousness. See that every arrival is an answer to your inner state, and every departure is a reflection of the natural movement of life. And when someone chooses to leave, let them go, not with anger, not with despair, but with understanding, with love, and with the quiet confidence that your imagination is your sanctuary, your source, and your eternal companion. Remember this, the nature of relationships is reflection, not possession. The nature of love is allowance, not clinging, and the nature of life is movement, not stagnation. When you live this truth, you will discover a freedom that no person can take from you, and no departure can diminish. 10. Stop attaching your identity to others. Now let us move deeper into the understanding of freedom. For freedom is the foundation of every joyful life. You see, the moment you attach your identity to another person, you surrender your power. You place the responsibility for your happiness, your peace, and your sense of worth in the hands of someone else. And when that person leaves, when they exercise their freedom to go, you feel as if your life has collapsed. But I am here to tell you tonight, your life is never dependent on anyone but yourself. Most people do not realize this. From the moment we are born, we are conditioned to believe that relationships define us. We are told in subtle ways that our significance comes from being loved, being accepted, being chosen. And so we cling. We fear loss. We grasp and hold, as if our very existence depends on another person's presence. And yet all this clinging is built on a false premise, a misunderstanding of the most fundamental law. You are the source, and your external world is the reflection. Think carefully about what it means to attach your identity to someone. You begin to define yourself by their actions, their choices, their attention, and their affection. You measure your worth by whether they approve, whether they stay, whether they care. And when they leave, or even when they shift their focus, you feel incomplete. You feel small. You feel abandoned. This is not life speaking to you, it is fear. Fear is the voice that says, without them I am nothing. But listen carefully. That voice is a lie. It has no power unless you allow it. To free yourself, you must first recognize that your identity is already complete. Your value is not given to you by anyone else. It resides within. You do not need another person to validate you, to love you, or to complete you. To cling to another is to deny your own inner wholeness. You must awaken to the truth that you are whole, perfect, and complete, independent of anyone outside yourself. Imagine, if you will, the fear that arises when someone leaves. Your mind races. How can I survive without them? Who will love me? What will I do? And in that fear, you give away your power. You diminish your own reality. But here is the key. When you stop attaching your identity to another, when you stop defining yourself by the presence or absence of someone else, something miraculous happens. Your mind becomes still. Your imagination becomes free. And in that freedom, your life begins to move according to your desires, rather than the whims of others. Let us be very clear here. This does not mean you do not care about people. This does not mean you do not love. On the contrary, when you understand this law, your love becomes deeper, richer, and more powerful. You love without clinging. You care without grasping. You allow another to be free, while remaining fully grounded in your own wholeness. And it is in this state that relationships take on a new dimension, not of dependency, not of fear, but of mutual recognition and respect. Now consider the world around you. How many relationships suffer because one person's identity is entangled with another? How many marriages, friendships, and partnerships collapse under the weight of expectation? All of this arises because people fail to recognize that the other is not responsible for their fulfillment. When you attach yourself to another, you attempt to control them, to demand that they meet your needs, to shape them into the reflection you desire. And when they do not, suffering arises. But freedom does not require the other person to change. Freedom does not require them to stay. Freedom begins within. The moment you say to yourself, I am whole, I am complete, I do not require anyone else to validate my being, a transformation occurs. Your mind is liberated, your imagination is activated, and your life begins to flow naturally, according to the desires you hold within your consciousness, not the external conditions you attempt to manipulate. Let us now consider an example. Suppose you are in a romantic relationship, and your partner expresses the desire to leave. The first reaction for most is panic. The mind races. If they leave, I will lose everything. I will be nothing without them. This is the voice of attachment, the voice of fear. But the voice of truth says, I am already everything. I am whole. Their choice does not diminish me. Their departure reflects the natural movement of life, and my fulfillment resides within me. It is in this state that you no longer resist. You do not beg. You do not plead. You do not manipulate. You allow the natural course of events, knowing that your inner state is the source of all life. And what is remarkable is that this does not lead to emptiness or loneliness. On the contrary, it leads to expansion. It opens the door to experiences that align with your inner being. It attracts people, situations, and circumstances that resonate with the harmony of your consciousness. This is the secret most people fail to see. Attachment never brings fulfillment. Only freedom brings fulfillment. When you release someone, when you stop defining yourself by their presence, you align with the creative power of your own imagination. You step into a reality in which you are the source, not the reflection. You begin to live as the master of your own experience, not the prisoner of another's choices. Now I want you to take this principle and apply it in your daily life. Notice the relationships where you feel fear, where you feel dependent, where you feel incomplete without someone else. Ask yourself, am I attaching my identity to them? Am I seeking my fulfillment outside of myself? And when the answer is yes, begin to remind yourself that your wholeness is within. Begin to dwell in the consciousness of freedom. Begin to imagine yourself complete, happy, and fulfilled, regardless of external conditions. This is not a small shift. It is the very essence of self-mastery. It is the recognition that no person, no circumstance, no external condition has power over your reality, unless you give it power. When you release the attachment, when you release the need for validation or approval, your life transforms. Relationships become reflections of your joy, not the source of your fear. You begin to move in alignment with the life you imagine, rather than the life imposed by others' choices. And finally, understand this. Letting go of attachment does not mean you do not love or care. It means you love and care with wisdom. You allow others their freedom while maintaining your own. You step into the truth that your identity is not borrowed. It is inherent. You are not incomplete without them. You are already whole, already powerful, already sufficient. And when you live from this state, the world cannot touch your peace, your joy, or your fulfillment. So remember tonight, as you reflect on this teaching, stop attaching your identity to others. Recognize your wholeness. Trust in your inner power. Let go of and watch as your life, your relationships, and your sense of being unfold in harmony with the infinite possibilities of your imagination. 3. Recognize the temporary nature of people in your life. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want you to understand something that will transform the way you experience every relationship, every friendship, every encounter that life brings your way. The truth is simple, yet it is overlooked by almost everyone. Nothing in the external world is permanent. People, circumstances, and events appear and disappear like clouds drifting across the sky. To resist this truth is to invite suffering. To embrace it is to discover freedom. When a person enters your life, they do so for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And yet very few understand that these durations are not fixed by desire or by force. They are determined by the alignment of consciousness. Your inner state calls forth people and situations, and when that state shifts, what was once present may naturally move away. This is not loss. It is the flow of life responding to the movement of your imagination. Too often we cling to people as if they are eternal. We build castles of expectation around them, imagining that they are meant to stay forever. And when they leave, we feel abandoned, devastated, and incomplete. But let me tell you this, the fear of impermanence is the root of all suffering. Nothing in the external world is meant to be permanent. Life is not static. It is dynamic, always evolving, always moving in accordance with the inner state of consciousness. I want you to consider this deeply. The people in your life are reflections, not possessions. When someone appears, it is because your imagination resonates with theirs. When they leave, it is because either their state or your state has changed. There is no judgment here. There is no failure. There is only the natural movement of life. And when you understand this, letting go becomes a natural act, not a painful struggle. Think of a river flowing freely to the sea. You do not attempt to hold back the water, nor would you try to keep it in one place. If you did, it would stagnate and lose its vitality. People, like water, are meant to move. When you resist their movement, you create turbulence, pain, and suffering. But when you allow them to flow, you align with the natural rhythm of life, and peace emerges. To understand the temporary nature of people is to understand the nature of reality itself. Now consider this. Every person who enters your life serves a purpose. Some teach you love, some teach you patience, some teach you self-respect, and some teach you the art of letting go. When someone chooses to leave, it is not because they are wrong, nor because you have failed. It is simply a reflection of the inner alignment. Your inner state has changed and life responds accordingly. To resist this truth is to resist life itself. To embrace it is to step into mastery. Many people fear impermanence because they equate it with loss. They ask, if they leave, what do I have left? Who will love me? Who will care? And yet these questions arise from a misunderstanding. Your fulfillment, your joy, your love do not reside in another. They reside within. When you recognize the temporary nature of people, you no longer fear their absence. You no longer need their approval, their attention, or their presence to feel complete. You become whole in yourself. Let me guide you further. Imagine a person in your life who has recently departed. Perhaps it is a friend, a lover, a colleague, someone whose presence once brought comfort or joy. Your first reaction might be sadness or even despair. But let me ask you, what if their departure is not a tragedy but a gift? What if it is life's way of showing you that your inner state has expanded, that your imagination has moved beyond the boundaries that once held you? In that light, their leaving is not a loss. It is a revelation, a confirmation that your consciousness is evolving. The key is this. Stop building permanence around impermanent things. Stop expecting people to stay according to your desire or need. Stop imagining that someone's presence is essential to your well-being. Instead, see them as passing reflections, as teachers, as temporary companions in the journey of your life. When you do, you will no longer suffer. You will no longer cling. You will no longer fear the departure of others. You will simply witness life as it is, a constant flow of experiences, people, and circumstances that mirror your consciousness. Notice how attachment arises. Attachment arises when you invest your identity in another. You define yourself by their presence, and their departure threatens that identity. But here is the truth. Your identity is not in them. Your identity is within. Your identity is the consciousness you cultivate, the inner state you maintain, and the life you imagine. When you shift your focus from the external to the internal, you stop fearing the temporary nature of people. You stop resisting their movement. You stop attempting to control that which is naturally free. Let us go even deeper. The universe is constantly moving. People, situations, and opportunities appear in response to your inner state, and they leave when your inner state no longer resonates. This is not punishment. It is perfection. This is not loss. It is alignment. When you understand this, you no longer beg, you no longer plead, you no longer manipulate. You simply allow. You simply trust. You simply know that life is unfolding in perfect harmony with your imagination. And so the practice becomes this. Every time someone leaves, every time a relationship changes, every time a connection dissolves, remind yourself that this is not a failure. Remind yourself that their presence was temporary and their leaving is natural. Use this moment to turn inward, to examine your own consciousness, and to align with the reality you wish to experience. In this way, you transform a potential moment of suffering into a profound moment of growth, understanding, and freedom. Remember this, and let it resonate in every fiber of your being. People are temporary, consciousness is eternal. Your inner state does not depend on another's presence, and your fulfillment does not require external confirmation. When you live from this truth, letting go becomes an act of grace. It becomes a celebration of life's constant movement. It becomes an acknowledgement that your power resides within, not in the presence or absence of anyone else. Tonight I challenge you to practice this understanding. Observe the people in your life. Notice how long they stay, notice how they leave, and reflect upon the truth that all external appearances are temporary. Anchor yourself in the awareness that your inner state is eternal. Align your consciousness with love, freedom, and wholeness, and watch as your relationships, your experiences, and your entire life begin to flow in harmony with the infinite possibilities of your imagination. When you recognize the temporary nature of people in your life, you will no longer fear change. You will no longer resist movement. You will no longer suffer from departure. Instead, you will see every interaction as a reflection, every encounter as a gift, and every leaving as an opportunity to deepen your understanding of freedom, consciousness, and self-mastery. And that, my friends, is the beginning of true peace. Trust the inner guidance. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to speak about a principle so profound, so liberating, and yet so simple that if you truly grasp it, it will change the way you move through every relationship, every situation, and every challenge in life. That principle is this: trust your inner guidance. So often when someone leaves our lives or when we face change, we panic. We look outward for answers. We ask, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? How can I fix it? And in doing so, we place the responsibility for our life in the hands of circumstances and other people. But the truth, the eternal truth, is that the answers always lie within. Your inner guidance is your constant companion, your true north, your personal compass. If you learn to trust it, if you learn to act in alignment with it, life itself begins to unfold in perfect harmony. Let me explain what I mean by inner guidance. I do not mean fleeting thoughts or random impulses. I do not mean wishful thinking or emotional reaction. I mean the quiet, unmistakable knowing that resides within you, the awareness that speaks without words, the sense of direction that feels effortless, the feeling of certainty that cannot be shaken by appearances. This is your inner guidance, and it is always aligned with your highest good, always. Now consider this. When someone chooses to leave your life, when a relationship changes, the mind immediately wants to react. It wants to analyze, to control, to manipulate. It says, I must hold them, I must convince them, I must not let this happen. But notice how these reactions come from a place of fear. They come from a place of attachment. And what does fear ever create? It never creates freedom. It never creates love. It never creates fulfillment. Fear only tightens the grip and increases suffering. The first step toward trusting your inner guidance is to recognize that the external world is not the source of truth. People leave, circumstances change, events unfold, but these are merely reflections of your inner state. The inner state is the true reality. The inner state is the guiding force. When you attune yourself to it, you no longer need to control anything outside yourself. You begin to act from a place of certainty, from a place of knowing, and the world responds accordingly. Let us take an example. Imagine a person you love deeply decides to move on. Your mind screams, I cannot let them go. What will I do without them? And in that moment you have a choice. You can allow fear to dominate, clinging and grasping, or you can pause, close your eyes and turn inward. You can connect with the still, quiet voice that says, all is well. Life is unfolding perfectly. I am whole and everything I desire is already within me. That voice is your inner guidance. It is always speaking, always pointing the way. The challenge is simply to listen. Listening is not always easy. The mind is noisy. The emotions are loud. But your inner guidance speaks softly, almost imperceptibly. It is felt, not thought. It is known, not reasoned. And the more you practice listening, the stronger it becomes. The more you trust it, the clearer it becomes. And when you act from that guidance, you align yourself with the natural flow of life. Letting go of others, when necessary, becomes not only painless but empowering. Trusting your inner guidance also means understanding the difference between resistance and acceptance. Resistance arises when you attempt to force an external reality to match your expectations. You want someone to stay, someone to act a certain way, or someone to conform to your desires. This is the mind attempting control. Acceptance, on the other hand, arises when you recognize the impermanence of the external, the fluidity of life, and the perfection of the present moment. Acceptance is not surrender in weakness, it is surrender in strength. It is the recognition that your inner state is sovereign, that your imagination is the creator, and that everything outside you is secondary. Let me be very clear here. Trusting your inner guidance does not mean you are passive. It does not mean you resign yourself to life as it appears. On the contrary, it means you are actively creating, but from a higher place of awareness. You are imagining, feeling, and living in alignment with your desires, not reacting to appearances. And when you do this, people, circumstances, and opportunities align naturally. You no longer need to manipulate or control. Life flows to you effortlessly. Consider this: every time you have ever made a decision from fear, from doubt, from the need to control, what was the result? More confusion, more struggle, more pain. And every time you have acted from the quiet knowing within, what was the result? Peace, clarity, and effortless movement toward your desires. Your inner guidance is the source of all success, all fulfillment, all love. It is the compass that always points to the life you imagine. Now I want you to practice something. The next time someone moves away from your life, or when a relationship changes, pause, take a deep breath, close your eyes, feel the stillness within. Ask yourself, what does my inner guidance tell me right now? Do not seek advice from the mind. Do not dwell on fear. Do not replay past events. Simply listen. You may feel a sense of calm, a sense of certainty, a quiet knowing that all is well. That is your inner guidance. That is your compass. That is the force that will lead you to freedom, fulfillment, and joy. When you trust this inner guidance, letting go becomes effortless. You do not resist. You do not cling. And you do not suffer. You simply move with the natural flow of life, secure in the knowledge that your inner state is the source of all good. And what is remarkable is that, in this state, new opportunities, new connections, and new experiences appear naturally, as if life itself conspires to support your alignment. Tonight I want you to leave with this understanding. Your inner guidance is always speaking. It is always available. It is always in harmony with your highest good. The moment you stop reacting to the outer world, and the moment you begin to listen and act from within, life fear disappears, attachment dissolves, and the people who come and go in your life do so in perfect alignment with your inner reality. So remember, my friends, trust your inner guidance, follow its quiet voice, not the loud demands of fear or attachment. Allow yourself to feel complete, whole, and free, regardless of who is present or absent in your life. In this trust, you will find peace. In this trust, you will find freedom. And in this trust, you will discover the true art of letting go. 5. Release guilt and judgment. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we come to a teaching that many resist, yet it is essential for freedom, for peace, and for the art of letting go. I want you to consider this carefully. When someone leaves your life, your first reaction is often not just sorrow but guilt, and sometimes judgment. You ask yourself, did I do something wrong? Was I not enough? Should I have acted differently? And at the same time, you may judge the other person. Why are they leaving? How could they do this to me? But I am here to tell you right now that both of these reactions are illusion. Both are products of the mind's attempt to control, to explain, and to find blame in a world where blame does not exist. The truth is far simpler and far more liberating. When someone leaves, it is neither punishment nor reward. It is a reflection of the natural law of consciousness at work. And to embrace this truth, you must release both guilt and judgment. Guilt is the voice that says, I am responsible for their choice. Their departure is my fault. But listen carefully. Who is truly responsible for anyone's life but themselves? Each person moves according to their own imagination, their own beliefs, and their own inner state. Their leaving is a mirror of their consciousness, not a reflection of your inadequacy. To take on guilt is to misplace responsibility and to deny the power that you actually hold, your power over your own inner state. Judgment is the other side of the coin. Judgment says, they are wrong. They should not leave. They should act as I wish. But the universe does not operate according to our limited wishes. Life is movement, change, and alignment with consciousness. Judgment only creates resistance. It only binds you to frustration, anger, and sorrow. And the moment you release judgment, the moment you stop labeling their actions as right or wrong, you enter a state of peace. You begin to see life as it is, not as you think it should be. Now let us go deeper. When you release guilt and judgment, you are practicing the art of allowance. Allowance is the recognition that life moves perfectly according to the inner state of consciousness. To resist it, to cling, to blame, is to work against the natural flow. To allow is to move with it. To recognize that every departure, every change, every ending serves a purpose in your inner development. The person who leaves is not rejecting you. They are simply moving according to the law of their own imagination, and in doing so they invite you to step into a higher state of being. Consider this. When you feel guilt or judgment, you are imagining an external cause for your inner discomfort. You are saying, if only they had stayed, if only I had done this differently, then I would be happy. But notice what is missing here. You are ignoring the one source of all happiness, all fulfillment, all life itself. Your inner state, your imagination, is the source. Your consciousness is the power. Their choices are merely reflections. When you release guilt and judgment, you no longer deny this truth. You align with it. You step into it. You live it. Let me give you a practical way to do that. The next time someone leaves your life, do not react immediately with sorrow, blame, or anger. Instead, close your eyes. Breathe deeply. Imagine a life within you that is unaffected by any external circumstance. Imagine a state of wholeness, of completeness, of peace. And in this state, silently affirm, I am not guilty. I am not responsible for their choices. I release judgment. I release blame. All is well. Repeat this until the weight lifts from your mind and heart. You see, guilt and judgment are not inherent. They are habits of thought. They are learned responses to attachment, fear, and the illusion of control. And just as any habit, they can be released through conscious practice. When you make the decision to release them, you take back your power. You stop giving away your peace to circumstances and other people. You no longer tether your happiness to the presence or absence of another. Now let us consider the deeper effect of this practice. When you release guilt and judgment, you also release resistance. Resistance is the root of suffering. It is the force that binds you to the pain of attachment, the pain of loss, and the fear of change. By letting go of guilt and judgment, you allow life to move freely. You allow the natural course of relationships to unfold. You allow yourself to experience the beauty, the lessons, and the opportunities that every encounter brings without clinging or despair. And here is a truth that must be heard clearly. Releasing guilt and judgment does not mean you do not care. It does not mean you do not love. On the contrary, it allows you to love more deeply, more purely, and more powerfully. When you release blame, you release the chains that distort your life. You allow yourself to see others as they truly are, imperfect, evolving, moving according to their own consciousness, and you see yourself as whole, complete, and free. Think about this. The people who leave your life, the relationships that end, the friendships that fade, they are not failure. They are reflections. They are mirrors of consciousness, guiding you to understand, to grow, and to step into a higher state of being. Guilt and judgment only obscure this understanding. When you release them, clarity emerges, peace emerges, freedom emerges. And finally, remember this. Every time you feel the pull of guilt or the weight of judgment, bring yourself back to the inner state. Return to the knowing that all is well. Return to the awareness that your power, your fulfillment, and your reality reside within. Return to the understanding that letting go is not an act of weakness. It is an act of wisdom, of alignment, of grace. Release guilt, release judgment, and in doing so, release yourself. Free yourself from the chains of external circumstance. Free yourself from the illusion that anyone's choices can diminish your wholeness. Step into the peace, the freedom, and the joy that is your natural inheritance. Tonight I challenge you to practice this. Observe your thoughts. Notice the guilt. Notice the judgment. Acknowledge it. And then let it go. Affirm your wholeness. Affirm your freedom. And watch as your life, your relationships, and your very consciousness begin to expand into the infinite possibilities of your imagination. Remember, my friends, releasing guilt and judgment is the key to liberation. It is the key to love without clinging. It is the key to letting go with grace. And it is the key to living a life that is fully aligned with the creative power within you. 6. Embrace your own wholeness. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we arrive at a teaching that is both simple and revolutionary. Embrace your own wholeness. This principle is the very foundation of true freedom, the essence of peace, and the secret to letting go of those who wish to lead your life. Many people search for completeness in the world around them, in other people, in relationships, or in circumstances. They look outward, believing that fulfillment is something to be received. And yet, all the while, the power to be complete resides quietly, patiently, and eternally within. Wholeness is not something you acquire from another person. It is not granted by the love, attention, or presence of someone outside yourself. It is not dependent on circumstances, appearances, or the passage of time. It is your natural state. And the moment you awaken to this truth, you no longer fear loss, you no longer cling, and you no longer suffer when people leave your life. For you have discovered the source of your fulfillment, the source of your joy, and the source of your very being, yourself. I want you to reflect for a moment on what happens when we seek completeness outside ourselves. We attach, we cling, we fear. We say, if they leave, I am empty. If they reject me, I am less. If they do not stay, my life is diminished. And all of these statements arise from a fundamental misunderstanding. You are not diminished by another's absence. You are not incomplete without someone else. Your wholeness is inherent. It is unchanging. It is eternal. To embrace your own wholeness, you must first turn inward. You must look deeply into your own consciousness and recognize that everything you have ever sought externally already exists within you. Peace, love, joy, fulfillment, and abundance are not found in another. They are found in the awareness of your own being. When you recognize this, relationships are no longer about need. They are no longer about dependence. They become reflections, expressions, and extensions of the inner reality you already possess. Consider this. When someone leaves, the mind often reacts with panic. It says, without them, I am nothing. I am incomplete. I am lonely. But notice what is really happening here. The mind is forgetting its own power. It is forgetting that the world is a mirror, and that your inner state is the source of all experience. When you embrace your wholeness, the departure of another does not diminish you. It simply mirrors the natural movement of life. It becomes a reflection, not a loss. It becomes a signal, not a catastrophe. Let us go even deeper. Wholeness is not a passive state. It is not something that waits for circumstances to confirm it. It is a conscious choice, an inner declaration, and a state of being. You can declare it in thought, in feeling, and in imagination. I am whole. I am complete. I am enough. My fulfillment resides within me, independent of all else. The moment you live in this state, the world conforms to it. The presence or absence of others no longer affects your peace, and you begin to attract experiences and people that reflect the wholeness you have cultivated within. I want to give you a practical exercise. Take a moment each day to sit quietly, close your eyes, and feel your own wholeness. Imagine yourself complete, independent, and fulfilled. Imagine a radiant light of completeness within your chest, growing, expanding, and filling every corner of your being. Feel the joy of being whole. Feel the peace of being enough. Feel the freedom of being independent of external circumstances. And when thoughts of attachment or fear arise, return to this inner state. Anchor yourself in the reality of your own wholeness, not the illusions of external dependence. Now notice something remarkable about wholeness. When you embrace it, letting go becomes effortless. When you recognize that your fulfillment does not depend on someone else, you no longer resist their movement. You no longer cling. You no longer manipulate or plead. You allow life to flow naturally. You allow others to follow their path, while you remain grounded in the unshakable certainty of your own completeness. Many people make the mistake of thinking that wholeness is achieved only when the external world aligns with their desire. They wait for approval, for love, for companionship, or for circumstance to validate their being. But I am here to tell you, wholeness is not earned. It is not granted. It is recognized, and it is recognized only when you stop seeking it outside yourself and turn your attention to the source within. Think for a moment about how this applies to relationships. Suppose someone has been a close friend, a partner, or a companion in your life, and they express the desire to leave. The instinct is to panic, to plead, to resist. But when you are grounded in your wholeness, the response is different. You do not see departure as a loss. You see it as an opportunity to practice freedom, to expand your inner state, and to deepen your awareness of your own completeness. You smile inwardly, you release them gracefully, and you remain whole. And here is the extraordinary part. Embracing your own wholeness does not isolate you. On the contrary, it magnetizes the right people, circumstances, and opportunities into your life. When you are complete within, you attract relationships that are reflections of your state, not sources of your need. You attract love that mirrors your wholeness, not love that compensates for the lack. You attract experiences that expand your joy, not experiences that validate your fear. Wholeness also transforms your perception of past departures. Those who have left your life are no longer seen as losses or failures. They are seen as mirrors, teachers, and stepping stones in the journey of self-realization. The departure is a confirmation that you are moving toward a greater awareness of your own completeness. You do not mourn the absence. You celebrate the lesson. You do not resist the change. You welcome the growth. And finally, embrace this truth. You are already complete, already whole, already enough. Nothing outside you can add to this, and nothing outside you can take it away. When you live from this awareness, fear disappears, attachment dissolves, and letting go becomes an act of grace rather than a struggle. You move through life freely, joyfully, and confidently, knowing that the source of all fulfillment is within you, eternal and unchanging. Tonight I challenge you to anchor yourself in this truth. Begin each day by recognizing your wholeness. Return to it whenever fear or attachment arises. Celebrate the inner completeness that is your birthright, and watch as your relationships, your experiences, and your very life align naturally with the infinite possibilities of your imagination. Remember, my friends, wholeness is your foundation, your power, and your freedom. Embrace it fully, live from it consistently, and let go of all who wish to leave, knowing that your life is already complete and your joy is already assured. 7. Understand the power of imagination. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want you to focus on a truth that is the cornerstone of every reality, the engine behind every experience, and the key to understanding why people come and go in your life. That truth is this: your imagination is the creative power behind everything you experience. It is not a fleeting thought. It is not a whimsical fantasy. It is the force that shapes your life, that orchestrates your circumstances, and that calls forth the people who enter and leave your world. Too often we look at life as if it is happening to us. We see the arrivals and departures of people as random, as unfair, or as tragic. And when someone leaves, we ask, why did this happen? What did I do wrong? But the answer, my friends, is not outside, it is within. Your imagination, your inner state, your consciousness is the source of all appearances. People appear when your imagination aligns with theirs, and they depart when your alignment shifts. To understand this is to understand why letting go is not only natural but inevitable and necessary. Your imagination is far more powerful than you realize. Every thought, every feeling, every image you hold in your consciousness is a seed, and like a seed planted in fertile soil, it will grow, manifest, and shape the outer world. If your imagination is filled with fear, clinging, and neediness, the outer world reflects struggle, resistance, and loss. If your imagination is filled with wholeness, freedom, and certainty, the outer world reflects harmony, alignment, and effortless fulfillment. Let me make this very clear. The people who leave your life are not rejecting you. They are responding to the shift in your imagination. Perhaps you have begun to imagine life differently. Perhaps your inner state has moved toward freedom, independence, or a new vision of yourself. And in response, the outer world must conform. Those whose energy no longer resonates with your inner state will naturally depart. This is not a failure, it is the law of creation at work. Now consider the common mistake most people make. They imagine that if they hold on tightly, if they manipulate, if they plead, they can force the outer world to conform to their desires. And yet all attempts to control through fear or desperation are futile, because the outer world is a mirror of your imagination, not a puppet to be commanded. You cannot force someone to stay or act according to your wishes. You can only shape your inner state, and the outer world will reflect that truth. This is where true mastery begins. To let people go without fear, without guilt, and without attachment. You must cultivate the awareness that your imagination is the source. You must direct your imagination intentionally, knowing that everything you see in the outer world is the reflection of the inner world you choose to dwell in. When you hold this understanding, the departure of others becomes an affirmation, not a loss. It becomes proof that your imagination is alive, responsive, and powerful. Let me illustrate this with a simple practice. Take a situation where someone has left, or where you fear they might leave. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and imagine a state in which you are already complete, already fulfilled, and already free. See yourself living joyfully, independent of external validation. Feel the emotion of freedom, the joy of wholeness, the peace of self-sufficiency, and then hold that image in your imagination with absolute certainty. Notice how the fear, the anxiety, and the attachment begin to dissolve. Your imagination has shifted, and the outer world will reflect this change naturally, effortlessly. Your imagination is not limited by time, space, or circumstance. It is not constrained by the behavior of others. It is infinite. It is the field from which all experiences emerge. And when you understand this, you stop reacting to appearances. You stop clinging to people. You stop fearing departure. You live from the source. You imagine your life as it is already complete, and your outer world responds accordingly. Consider the power of feeling. Imagination is not merely visual. It is felt. The feelings you embody are the secret currency of creation. When you imagine and feel wholeness, freedom, and independence, you are vibrating at a frequency that calls forth corresponding experiences. When you imagine and feel fear, dependence, and lack, you are vibrating at a frequency that calls forth struggle and separation. And this is why letting go becomes effortless when you live from imagination rather than reaction. Another key point: people come and go, but your imagination remains. You are never powerless. You are never at the mercy of circumstance. You are never dependent on the actions, decisions, or feelings of another. The creative power resides within you, and it is active in every moment. Every relationship, every encounter, every connection is a reflection of the state of your imagination at that moment. This is why self-mastery, inner alignment, and the conscious use of imagination are essential skills in the art of letting go. And here is a truth that will change everything. The people who leave your life often leave because your imagination has expanded. Perhaps they no longer resonate with the higher state you now occupy. Perhaps your consciousness is moving toward new opportunities, new experiences, and new joys. Their departure is not a rejection. It is confirmation that your imagination is alive and effective. It is a reflection that you are moving in alignment with the life you have imagined within. So what is the practical application of this understanding? Every time someone departs, instead of mourning, fearing, or resisting, turn inward. Direct your imagination toward your own wholeness. See yourself already living the life you desire, complete and free. Feel the emotions of fulfillment, independence, and joy. And in doing so, you are not only letting go, you are creating, you are shaping your future. You are demonstrating mastery over your own reality. Remember, my friends, imagination is the creative law. Your inner state calls forth the outer world. People appear and depart according to the alignment of consciousness. Letting go without fear, guilt, or judgment is not a passive act. It is a conscious use of imagination. It is the acknowledgement that your life is shaped by your inner state, not by the whims of others. And when you live this truth, you step into a freedom that no departure can diminish, a peace that no change can disturb, and a joy that no loss can take away. Tonight I challenge you to practice this. Notice your imagination, direct it intentionally. Feel the completeness within you. See your life as it is already fulfilled, regardless of who comes or goes, and watch as the outer world conforms to the magnificent reality you are creating within. Your imagination is your power. Your imagination is your freedom. Your imagination is the key to letting go gracefully, to living fully, and to discovering the infinite possibilities of your own consciousness. 8. Live in the feeling of freedom. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight I want to guide you into a truth that many overlook, yet it is essential to the art of letting go. The feeling of freedom is the foundation of your life. It is not found in possessions, relationships, or achievements. It is not granted by circumstance or by the presence of others. It is a state of consciousness, a feeling that arises from within, and it is the key to moving gracefully through life. When people choose to leave, too often we allow our emotions to be dictated by the actions of others. When someone departs, when a relationship changes, the mind reacts with fear, anxiety, and attachment. And yet these reactions are unnecessary, for the source of your freedom lies entirely within. It is a feeling that you can cultivate at any moment, regardless of what the outer world presents. To live in this feeling is to step into mastery over your own consciousness. Consider this. When you feel freedom, you are no longer dependent on another person for your happiness, your peace, or your sense of worth. You are whole, complete, and sovereign. No one's presence or absence can alter your state. And when you inhabit this feeling, letting go of others becomes effortless. You do not cling. You do not fear. You do not manipulate or plead. You simply flow with life, secure in the knowledge that your fulfillment is inherent. Now you may ask, how do I cultivate this feeling of freedom? The answer is simple, yet profound. Live as if you are already free. Do not wait for circumstances or people to grant it. Do not imagine freedom as something to be attained in the future. Instead, feel it now in the present. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine a light within you, expanding, radiating, and filling every part of your being with the sensation of complete freedom. Feel the joy of independence, the peace of self-sufficiency, and the power of inner wholeness. Hold that feeling as real. Hold it as permanent. And let it become the lens through which you view all experiences. When you live in the feeling of freedom, you notice something remarkable. People may come and go, but your state remains unshaken. Departures no longer cause panic or suffering. Changes no longer provoke attachment or resistance. You are grounded in the eternal truth that your inner reality is the source of all experience, and that nothing outside can diminish your sense of completeness. The world moves around you and you move with it gracefully, effortlessly, and joyfully. Let us explore this further. Freedom is not mere absence of restraint. It is a presence of alignment. It is the recognition that your inner state dictates the outer world. When you feel free, you are vibrating in a state of harmony with life itself. Your imagination flows unimpeded. Your desires are expressed without struggle. Your relationships reflect this inner reality, bringing experiences that match the feeling you hold within. In short, freedom is the cornerstone of creation, the essence of letting go, and the foundation of joy. Many people confuse freedom with isolation or detachment. They imagine that to be free, one must withdraw from others or reject attachment entirely. This is a misconception. True freedom is not separation. It is sovereignty. It is the ability to engage fully with life and with people without losing your inner equilibrium. You can love deeply, connect profoundly, and share intimately, all while remaining grounded in your own sense of wholeness and freedom. This is the paradox and the beauty of the principle. Now consider the practice of living in this feeling. Each time you feel the pull of attachment, fear, or need, pause. Close your eyes. Feel the inner state of freedom. Imagine yourself unshaken by external events, complete in your being, and aligned with your highest good. Hold this feeling as real. Let it expand. Let it saturate your mind, body, and soul, and then return to the world, carrying this state with you. You will notice that relationships shift, circumstances change, and people move in ways that are harmonious with the freedom you embody. Another key point: the feeling of freedom is inseparable from the feeling of trust. When you trust life, when you trust the natural movement of consciousness, you naturally inhabit freedom. You no longer resist the departures of others or the changes of circumstance. You trust that every person who leaves is serving your highest good, just as every person who remains is serving your alignment. In this trust, freedom emerges naturally, effortlessly, and powerfully. Let me share a profound truth. The people who leave your life often leave to allow you to inhabit greater freedom. Their departure is not a rejection. It is a release. It is an invitation to expand your inner state, to trust your imagination, and to deepen your sense of sovereignty. And when you respond by living fully in the feeling of freedom, you demonstrate mastery over life, consciousness, and your own reality. Now I want you to consider the ripple effect. When you live in the feeling of freedom, you radiate it outward. Others sense it and they respond accordingly. Relationships are no longer binding or draining. They are fluid and harmonious. Departures are met with understanding, arrivals with joy, and all experiences with a profound sense of inner balance. You become a magnet for alignment, drawing people and circumstances that resonate with your state, rather than resist it. And here is the essential secret. Freedom is a choice. It is not dependent on external validation or circumstance. It is not granted by another's presence or withheld by their absence. It is a state you cultivate, a feeling you embody, and a consciousness you inhabit. The moment you choose freedom, you step beyond fear, beyond attachment, and beyond suffering. You become the creator of your reality, fully aware that the outer world is merely a reflection of the inner state you maintain. Tonight I challenge you to practice this consciously. Begin each day by feeling when you encounter change, when someone departs, when a relationship shifts. Return to this inner state. Trust it, embody it, and let it guide your actions. Notice how your outer world begins to mirror the freedom you feel within. Observe how your relationships become reflections of your inner completeness, rather than sources of anxiety or dependence, and revel in the profound joy, peace, and empowerment that comes from living in the feeling of freedom. Remember, my friends, freedom is not something to be granted. It is something to be realized. It is the foundation of letting go, the essence of inner mastery, and the key to creating a life of harmony, joy, and alignment. Live in this feeling, carry it with you always, and watch as life unfolds in perfect response to the power and truth within you. 9. Trust life's natural flow. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we arrive at a principle that is as simple as it is powerful. Trust life's natural flow. This principle is at the heart of letting go, of moving through change gracefully, and of understanding why people come and go in your life. Too often, when someone leaves, when circumstances shift, or when events do not unfold as we desire, we resist, we panic, we try to control, to manipulate, and to force outcomes. And yet, all resistance only creates suffering. To find peace, to find freedom, and to let go with grace, we must learn to trust the flow of life itself. What is this flow? It is the natural movement of consciousness. It is the unfolding of events according to the law of imagination, the law of your inner state, and the law of life itself. Every person who enters or leaves your life does so in perfect alignment with the consciousness you hold. Every situation that appears before you is a reflection, a mirror of the state you inhabit within. And when you resist, when you attempt to impose your will upon this flow, you create friction, you create struggle, you create suffering. Trusting life's flow begins with a recognition. You are not separate from life, and life is not against you. Everything that happens, every departure, every ending, every change is orchestrated in perfect harmony with your highest good. Even what appears to be loss is in truth a gain. Even what feels like rejection is in essence guidance. And when you align yourself with this understanding, letting go becomes effortless. You no longer cling. You no longer panic. You simply allow. Consider the natural world for a moment. Rivers do not fight against rocks. The wind does not resist obstacles. The sun rises and sets in its own rhythm, without struggle. Life too moves according to a natural rhythm, a perfect flow. Your task is not to control it, not to resist it, not to manipulate it. Your task is to align with it, to trust it, and to move in harmony with it. When you do, everything changes. Departures become opportunities. Endings become beginnings. Change becomes growth. Now let us examine the common error most people make. When someone leaves, the mind cries out, "This is unfair. I do not want this. I must make it right." And in this cry, fear is born. Attachment is born. Suffering is born. But notice this. Life is never unfair. Life is never arbitrary. Life is the expression of consciousness. And consciousness always reflects what is held within. When you resist, you are only fighting against the reflection of your own inner state. When you trust, you align with it, and the outer world responds with ease and grace. Trusting life's flow is also an act of surrender, but not surrender in weakness. It is surrender in strength. It is the recognition that your power does not reside in attempting to control others, to hold on, or to manipulate outcomes. Your power resides in your inner state, in your imagination, and in your alignment with the infinite creative force within. When you release the need to control, you step into true power. When you release the need to cling, you step into true freedom. Let me offer a practical exercise to cultivate this trust. Close your eyes. Take a deep breath. Imagine life as a river, flowing effortlessly, perfectly and naturally. See yourself standing on the bank, fully supported, fully secure, fully whole. And then visualize the people in your life as boats on this river. Some boats will approach, some will drift away, and some will move past you without pause. Watch them without attachment. Watch them without judgment. Trust that each movement is exactly as it should be. And in this visualization, Feel the peace that arises from complete trust in life's natural flow. Notice something profound. When you trust life's flow, fear disappears, anxiety fades, the urge to control dissolves. You no longer react to appearances. You no longer cling to outcomes. Instead, you move with life, in harmony with its rhythm, and aligned with the creative power of your own imagination. Trust transforms letting go from a painful struggle into an effortless act of grace. Consider the departures you have experienced in your own life. Perhaps someone you love deeply chose to leave. Perhaps a relationship ended unexpectedly. Perhaps a situation shifted in ways that caused fear or sorrow. Reflect on this. Did resistance, attachment, or control ever improve the situation? Did fear ever bring peace? The answer is no. And yet the moment you surrender, the moment you trust the flow, everything changes. You see life clearly. You see the purpose behind events. You feel the guidance inherent in every change. You experience freedom. Another crucial point. Trust is not passive. Trust does not mean doing nothing or accepting life blindly. Trust is active alignment. It is conscious awareness of the inner state that creates the outer world. It is the deliberate cultivation of imagination, feeling, and belief in harmony with life's natural rhythm. It is the recognition that every event, every arrival, every departure, and every change is a reflection of your own consciousness, and that by aligning your state, you align your reality. And here is a truth that many overlook. Departures are not rejections. They are invitations. They are signals that your inner state is evolving. They are opportunities to step into a higher awareness, a deeper sense of wholeness, and a greater understanding of the creative power you possess. When you trust life's flow, you see each departure not as a loss, but as a necessary part of the unfolding of your consciousness. You see endings as beginnings, absences as space for growth, and change as the movement of life toward alignment. I want you to practice this daily. When you feel fear, attachment, or resistance, pause, close your eyes, imagine the natural flow of life. Feel yourself supported, whole, and aligned. Visualize events unfolding perfectly according to the higher intelligence within. Affirm silently or aloud, I trust life's flow. I am guided. All is well. I am whole. Repeat this until the feeling of peace, freedom, and trust saturates your being. Return to the world carrying this state with you, and notice how everything responds. Remember, my friends, trusting life's natural flow is the art of letting go. It is the key to freedom, the doorway to peace, and the foundation of alignment with your own creative power. When you trust, you release attachment. When you trust, you release fear. When you trust, you open the door to life's infinite possibilities. And finally, understand this. Trust is not earned. It is realized. It is not dependent on circumstances. It is inherent in the recognition of the law of consciousness. It is not fragile. It is unshakable when cultivated. Trust life's flow, and you step into a state where departures are no longer painful, where change is no longer frightening, and where your inner state guides the outer world effortlessly, beautifully, and completely. Tonight I challenge you to live in trust. Observe the flow of life. Witness the movement of people, and surrender to the rhythm of your own consciousness. Align your imagination, your feelings, and your state with the intelligence of life, and watch as freedom, peace, and joy manifest naturally, effortlessly, and magnificently in your experience. 10. Let go with grace and love. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight we arrive at the culmination of our journey. We have explored the principles of releasing guilt, embracing wholeness, trusting life, living in freedom, and understanding the power of imagination. And now we arrive at the final, most beautiful truth. Let go with grace and love. For this is the ultimate expression of mastery, the highest demonstration of consciousness, and the doorway to peace, joy, and freedom. Letting go is not simply the act of walking away. It is not mere resignation or detachment. True letting go is an inner state, a state of grace, of love, and of alignment with the natural movement of life. It is the recognition that every person, every relationship, every encounter, and every departure serves a purpose in your consciousness. And when you let go from this perspective, it is not loss. It is liberation. It is expansion. It is the flowering of your own creative power. Many people resist this truth. They cling, they plead, they fear abandonment, and they attempt to hold on to what wishes to move. And in doing so, they only create suffering for themselves and for others. Letting go is not an act of selfishness. It is an act of profound love. It is love for the other, allowing them to follow their own path, their own consciousness, and their own destiny. And it is love for yourself, acknowledging that your wholeness, your joy, and your fulfillment are independent of external circumstances. To let go with grace, you must first cultivate understanding. Understand that people leave not because of inadequacy or rejection, but because life unfolds according to consciousness. Understand that their departure mirrors your inner state, and that the outer world is but a reflection of the alignment you maintain within. Understand that clinging, guilt, or judgment only bind you to suffering, while grace frees you to move effortlessly with life. Now let us speak of love. True love is not need. True love is not dependence. True love does not demand, manipulate, or cling. True love is an expression of wholeness. It is a recognition that the other person is complete, independent, and free, just as you are. When you let go in love, you release without resentment, without anger, without fear. You release with respect, with appreciation, and with a deep acknowledgement of the value they brought into your life. Love becomes the energy that guides your release, transforming it from an act of loss into an act of grace. Consider this practice. Close your eyes, breathe deeply, and visualize the person you wish to release. See them surrounded by light, moving along their path, supported by life, free and whole. And as you hold this vision, feel a wave of love and gratitude toward them. Feel appreciation for the lessons, the growth, and the joy they brought into your life. And then in your mind and heart, release them. Let them move. Let them be free. And as you do, notice the liberation that arises within you. You are no longer tethered to the outer world. You are no longer bound by attachment. You are fully, completely, and magnificently free. Letting go with grace also requires the cultivation of inner trust. Trust that life is moving perfectly. Trust that every departure is an invitation to align more fully with your highest good. Trust that your imagination is alive, and that by holding a state of wholeness, love, and freedom, the outer world will reflect your inner state. When you trust life in this way, letting go is effortless. You release without struggle, without resistance, and without regret. You release because you understand that freedom and love are inseparable. Another essential truth. Letting go does not mean closing your heart. It does not mean shutting yourself off from relationships or experiences. On the contrary, it opens your heart to the infinite flow of life. It allows you to engage fully, deeply, and joyfully with others, knowing that each interaction is temporary, that each encounter serves a higher purpose, and that your peace does not depend on their presence. Your heart remains open, radiant, and expansive, fully capable of love, connection, and joy, while fully independent, sovereign, and free. Letting go with grace and love also transforms your perception of endings. What once felt like loss now becomes opportunity. What once seemed like rejection now becomes guidance. What once created fear now becomes empowerment. Every departure becomes a reflection of life's perfect intelligence. Every ending becomes a doorway to expansion. And every change becomes a chance to exercise mastery over your inner state. You see the world not as a series of losses, but as a mirror of your own consciousness, perfectly aligned to teach, guide, and uplift you. Now I want to remind you that grace is a state, not an act. You do not have to wait for circumstances to align to feel. You do not need permission, validation, or the cooperation of others. Grace resides within you. It is the natural result of living from wholeness, freedom, and trust. When you cultivate this inner state, letting go becomes effortless. It becomes natural. It becomes an expression of your alignment with life, rather than a reaction to circumstance. And finally, let me leave you with this profound understanding. To let go with grace and love is to step fully into your own power. It is to recognize that your fulfillment, your joy, and your wholeness are inherent. It is to live in a state where departures no longer wound you, where change no longer frightens you, and where your inner state guides your outer world with clarity, harmony, and beauty. It is to embrace life fully without fear, without attachment, and without limitation. So tonight I challenge you to practice this consciously. Observe the people, situations, and circumstances that seek release. Close your eyes. Breathe deep. Align yourself with the feeling of freedom, love, and wholeness. Visualize the perfect unfolding of life for yourself and for others. Release without resistance, release without fear, and release with profound grace. And as you do, notice the liberation that arises within you, the peace, the joy, and the empowerment that comes from living in alignment with the infinite creative power within. Remember, my friends, letting go with grace and love is the highest expression of consciousness. It is the culmination of mastery. It is the doorway to freedom. It is the path to peace, joy, and fulfillment. When you let go in this way, you step fully into your own power, align with the natural flow of life, and live in harmony with the infinite possibilities of your imagination. Tonight, embrace this truth. Let go with grace. Let go with love. And watch as your life, your relationships, and your consciousness expand into the magnificent reality that awaits you. Let go not with sorrow but with joy. Let go not with fear but with freedom. Let go not with attachment but with love. And in this you will discover the ultimate power, the ultimate peace, and the ultimate mastery of life itself.